What is this?
Arthropods from the abyss.
You need to hurry. The sea is coming back faster than we expected.
On the Caribbean Sea, a happy family was enjoying a wonderful vacation on their yacht. Julia, the mother, decided to jump into the water for a swim. At first, she tried to relax, but she soon felt something strange beneath her. She looked around but saw nothing and dismissed it as her imagination. Moments later, the strange sensation returned. Still unable to see anything, she grew worried and began swimming back toward the yacht. Suddenly, something grabbed her leg. Julia panicked and screamed for help. Her daughter, Cassie, couldn't hear her because she was wearing headphones, and her husband, Tom, and son, Ben, were busy fishing. Julia struggled to stay afloat, water filling her mouth, making it hard to yell. After a while, Tom realized Julia had been gone for too long. He searched the yacht and finally saw his wife in danger. Quickly, Tom guided the kids and steered the yacht closer to Julia. He jumped into the water, reached her, and held her tightly to keep her afloat. Together, they swam back to the yacht, and the kids helped them climb aboard. Once safe, Julia tried to make sense of what had happened, blaming the incident on a strong current. That evening, the family celebrated Ben's birthday with gifts and cake. Cassie received a call from her boyfriend and stepped outside with her laptop for privacy. During the video call, he showed her massive thunderclouds forming over the city before the video froze. Alarmed, Cassie hurried back to her family to explain, but Tom dismissed it, saying the signal was poor far from land. At that moment, a noise drew their attention outside. They discovered a pod of whales swimming nearby. Tom explained that whales follow the Earth's magnetic field, but storms can confuse them. Suddenly, the yacht shook violently, causing Ben to fall. Concerned that the yacht was damaged, Tom dove in to inspect it. After a few moments underwater, Tom resurfaced with a cut on his shoulder. Julia tended to the wound while Tom recounted that he had felt something behind him. When he turned, he was struck by the propeller. Whatever had been swimming near him was enormous, though he couldn't see it clearly. Tom also discovered severe damage to the yacht, so they needed to call for help. Julia tried the yacht's radio repeatedly, while Cassie searched for a phone signal, but nothing worked. Cassie was momentarily startled by a strange figure, only to find it was Ben playing a prank with a mask. Eventually, the yacht completely stopped working, leaving them stranded in the middle of the sea. Julia picked up a voice on the radio, but it was just distorted noise. Tom reassured the family that they had enough food and water for 4 days, so they would have to wait for a passing fishing boat. Suddenly, the yacht's radar picked up something nearby, and the family heard a strange noise. They rushed outside and were stunned to see several objects crashing to Earth, creating massive impacts. One fell into the water close to them, prompting Tom to quickly try to move the yacht forward. As the engine struggled, another object hit nearby. Clinging to each other in fear, the family watched as Tom realized these fiery objects weren't meteorites, they were satellites. Meanwhile, Ben noticed smoke coming from the yacht. Tom quickly checked and confirmed the engine was damaged. With the wind picking up, the family hurried inside, unaware that the compass was spinning wildly. The yacht shook violently, and Ben fell, injuring himself. Waves crashed against the yacht as Tom fought the wind to retrieve life jackets from an outside box and bring them inside. Suddenly, the power went out. Tom rushed to the power box, and when the lights returned, Ben noticed Julia's nose was bleeding. Cassie, feeling sick, ran to the sink to vomit. Despite his efforts, Tom couldn't get the radio to work. A high-pitched noise filled the air, and the wind worsened. Julia tried to keep the doors shut, but a hatch opened, and soon the wind smashed the windows. Tom quickly lit a flare before darkness fell. The next morning, the family woke in shock. They had survived the storm, though the yacht was badly damaged. Stepping outside, they discovered that the oceans had vanished, leaving the yacht stranded on dry land. Staring at the barren landscape, they tried to figure out what to do. Cassie searched for a signal but found nothing, while Ben played with 2 dead crabs. Tom checked the compass and realized the magnetic poles had reversed, a phenomenon that hadn't occurred for over 700,000 years. Cassie broke down, realizing her boyfriend was likely dead, and pushed her mother away when she tried to comfort her. While Julia and Tom assessed what supplies had survived, Ben tied his birthday balloons to a rock, hoping to attract attention. Tom tried the radio again and finally contacted a man named Now, captain of a submarine also stranded on land. He explained that the magnetic poles had shifted, causing the oceans to retreat and exposing the continents. Most communication systems were down, but he predicted the seas might return in about a week. He advised the family to climb to high ground, warning that the return of the oceans could be dangerous. Now's partner had died in the crash, and his submarine could take only 3 passengers. Julia and Tom persuaded him to rescue their children, and he shared his coordinates. Tom calculated it would take 2 or 3 days to reach the submarine and told the family to get a good night's rest, as they would set out early the next morning. In the morning, the family was busy packing their supplies when Tom noticed something moving nearby. A limping man appeared, holding a makeshift harpoon, accompanied by a barking dog. Tom cautiously approached and offered him a bottle of water, but the man didn't understand him. After drinking, the stranger suddenly attacked. He struck Tom with the bottle and kicked him in the face. Julia rushed over, but it was too late. The man stabbed Tom in the stomach with the harpoon, and moments later, slit his throat. The man then chased Julia, throwing the harpoon, which grazed her shoulder. Undeterred, Julia ran to the yacht, instructing the children to hide. She locked the doors and hid the kids inside the sofa, handing them a flare gun for protection before grabbing a knife and taking cover in the bathroom. The intruder broke down the door, entered the yacht, and started searching for food in the family. When he reached the bathroom, Julia managed to slip out through a hole in the wall. The dog, however, discovered her and tackled her to the ground. With no choice, Julia killed the dog with a knife. The man, hearing its cries, came to its body and seemed to lose control. Julia cautiously moved around the yacht, climbing to the top to return inside through a broken window. The man intercepted her and knocked her down. As he tried to drag her away, she fought back, kicking him off. In the struggle, he stepped on her wrist, forcing her to drop the knife, grabbed her by the hair, smashed her face against the floor before throwing her onto the sofa to choke her. The children, watching in horror, could not bear it any longer. Cassie bravely emerged and shot the man with a flare gun. Fire quickly spread across the yacht. The children ran to safety, but Julia returned to fight, striking the man and grabbing the map with the coordinates along with their bags. Ben and Cassie clung to their father's body as Julia joined them, and together they mourned. At that moment, the man emerged, and the family fled as the yacht erupted in a massive explosion. Later, the family stopped at a small waterfall to rest. Cassie wondered if the man had come after them because of the balloons, making Ben feel guilty. Julia reassured him it wasn't his fault and urged everyone to keep moving, aware the stranger might still be following them. At a nearby pond, Ben was fascinated by the body of a hammerhead shark. Julia then spotted the man approaching, prompting the family to run again. They carefully navigated around a pile of toxic waste and, eventually, it seemed they had lost their pursuer. As they continued, the family noticed dead sea creatures and heaps of plastic from the ocean littering the ground. When Ben began to slow, Julia realized he was close to dehydration. She stopped to let everyone rest, only to discover their water supply was almost empty. Cassie admitted she hadn't closed the bottle properly. Julia scolded her, but Cassie replied that survival seemed impossible anyway. After a tense argument, the family pressed on. Eventually, they stumbled upon a crashed plane. Startled by sudden movement, they found it was only birds and decided to spend the night inside. While sharing a snack, Julia found a family photo tucked in Tom's jacket, which left her heartbroken. Cassie asked how her parents had met, and Julia recounted how Tom had been her patient at the hospital where she worked. He declared his love with flowers and a heartfelt poem. Later that night, Cassie stepped outside the plane to relieve herself, only to be ambushed by the stranger. Julia, however, intervened and, in a surge of grief and rage, repeatedly stabbed him. Cassie helped calm her with a comforting hug. By morning, the man's body was covered in fleas. The family noticed many bite marks, suggesting that an animal might be hiding nearby. After the group moved on, a swarm of crabs emerged from the man's mouth. A few hours later, Julia and Cassie paused to check the map, but Ben continued walking, ignoring Julia's instructions to stop. Feeling extremely thirsty, Ben tried to drink from a pond, but Julia quickly pulled him back, warning that unknown water could make him sick. The family pressed on, covering their heads to protect themselves from the scorching sun. Ben began feeling dizzy, and when they came across a pile of old chairs, Julia and Cassie used them to make a temporary shelter. Julia gave Ben a medicine injection, and they decided to stay there overnight. Early the next morning, Julia awoke to a strange sound. She stepped outside to investigate and was horrified to see a swarm of crabs approaching. Julia hurried to wake the children, and the family ran as fast as they could. They reached a large cargo ship and saw 3 surviving crew members. Julia wanted to help, but 2 of the men refused, locking the family out by hiding inside a container. The crabs were close, so Julia had the kids climb to the top of the container. As she tried to climb, the crabs pinched her leg violently. The children helped their mother up before she could be pulled down. A hole in the container allowed half the crabs inside. The crew fired at them, but there were too many, and the crabs killed 2 of the men. The last man tried to escape through a hole in the ceiling, but the crabs dragged him down and killed him. Julia bandaged her leg but eventually passed out. She later woke up during a sandstorm and found herself alone. Panicking, she searched for her children, grabbing the dead woman's weapon for protection. Hearing Julia's screams, Cassie returned and explained that they had gone looking for help but found no one. They reunited with Ben, who had found an open container where they could rest until the storm passed. Using Tom's lighter, Julia painfully cauterized her wounds. Once the storm ended, the family discovered water bottles in another container. They also found a radio and a gun. Julia called and explained that she had lost the map. In response, they learned that arthropods, creatures from the deep, had attacked him, driven mad by the oxygen. He urged the family to move quickly, warning that the sea would return faster than expected. He fired a flare, guiding them in the right direction. After a long walk, they came across a broken toilet, where Ben relieved himself. Finally, the submarine was in sight, but they had to cross a massive rock formation. As they moved through, the walls shook, and rocks began falling in a huge landslide. Julia pushed her children out of the way just in time and stepped back to avoid being crushed herself. A rock wall now blocked their path. Julia told the kids to keep moving without her, but Cassie refused, insisting her mother should try to climb. They argued loudly, and after much back and forth, Julia promised she would find them later. Reluctantly, Cassie pulled her brother away. The kids climbed the rest of the rocky slope and ran toward the submarine, only to find now bleeding heavily outside. He told them it was the end for him and that they should take the submarine. Seeing there was space for one more, Cassie ran back to find her mother. Meanwhile, Julia was horrified to see a swarm of crabs approaching. She opened fire, managing to kill a few, but there were too many for her to fight alone. At that moment, Cassie appeared at the top of the wall and held out her hand. Julia, struggling with her wounded leg, climbed as quickly as she could with Cassie's help. Together, they reached the other side and ran toward the submarine. Ben was already on the roof, firing to distract the crabs while his family climbed aboard. The crabs reached Now's body and immediately began feeding on it. Julia continued firing to keep them at bay while guiding the kids inside. When she ran out of bullets, she threw the gun at the crabs and joined her children inside. The family locked the hatch securely and watched through the windows as the crabs swarmed around. Just then, the ocean returned. The trio hurried to their seats, fastened their seat belts, and held hands. The waves hit the submarine violently, tossing it around. Julia had visions of everything that had happened, while Cassie became sick from the motion. Soon, the high-pitched sound returned and knocked the family unconscious. When they woke up, Julia and the kids were relieved to see they had survived. They unlocked the hatch and stepped outside, discovering that the waves had carried the submarine to a ruined city, offering hope for survival and a chance to rebuild. If you enjoyed this sci-fi movie recap, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.